Today we've got some FUD for news. Great. Awesome. So, Bitcoin hit 2018 lows, all because of Mt. Gox's $400 million sell-off. That's it. End of news today. My job is done here. No. Although a lot of people would actually believe so. And no, it's not due to the SEC either. It is a much more complex process of why we're in a bear market right now, and there's not even 100 good explanations combined that could solve the question, why is Bitcoin falling below $10,000? Are we screwed? In my personal opinion, no. And in order to kind of alleviate concerns of anybody watching this video who is probably going to click off within the first 60 seconds, I think we're good. There we go. My opinion is everything's going to turn out just fine. Everybody's freaking out, and that's completely normal in this environment. Hello, 2017, 16, 15, 14, I mean, all the way back from the very beginning, right? There's been a lot of emotion, and that volatility is where the money and the speculation comes in, and voila, that's where the millionaires come out from, right? Because there's always some people who make a bunch of money. And why do these people make a bunch of money? Because everybody's sheep, especially in cryptocurrencies, and it's easy to manipulate. Or at least if you're not going to be manipulating, you're able to read the crowd and be like, well, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. So let's chat about Mt. Gox today. And a slight mention about the SEC. My name is Michael Kubera. Let's get into it. So, I should be freaking out right now because I was taking a look and I was actually supposed to do a $100,000 portfolio video. I recorded like 70% of it in Switzerland and I never finished it. And that's because I don't have a $100,000 portfolio anymore. it got obliterated, disintegrated, right? A lot of people think that also the SEC ruling, so after this came out that Kobayashi has sold $400 million worth of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, then the SEC ruling comes out, and you know the SEC stuff seemed pretty good up until the most recent post where it seems like there's going to be even more regulation, and some people want ICOs to register with the SEC and make it a much more secure system. For the long term, that's a great thing, but the short term, a lot of people are misinterpreting this news and they're making it seem like, oh no, it's the end of the world. And then there's other events that are leading to panic. There's certain figures coming out and they're being like, oh no, it's the end. But this happens every single time. Like, so what? You just get used to it, right? You look at 16 and 17 and 15, and even if this is going to be a little bit longer than a couple months, because there is a chance where, yeah, it could be over just around the corner. It could be over tomorrow, it could be over next week, could be over next month, right? But there is a chance that it could go on for a year or two. Okay, cool, great. Even if it is a bubble and it deflates, wow. What's the best thing that's going to happen? A lot of these scam ICOs and scammers will get removed. The people who don't believe in the technology at hand, they're just looking for the money, they have no passion for it, will be eliminated, right? And this small core group will remain, which will later grow into something else because this is Internet 2.0. It's almost like, the same thing that happened in 2001. If it is that, right? This could be completely something else and it's way better. But the worst case scenario is most of the companies are gone, right? 90, 95%. That's great because those companies, most of them don't have a platform. They don't have a service. They're not offering anything, right? It's just there to grab money. It's a cash grab, okay? And then they're going to get removed from the equation. They're gone. The people who are investing in that crap, they're also going to go. So you're left with these companies that are trying to find great solutions to problems that affect almost everyone, right? And before you know it, you got the next Google, you got the next Facebook, you got the next, look at the big players out of the dot-com bubble, right? Yahoo, even though Yahoo was obliterated recently, but still, years after 2001, they were doing pretty good. You got Yahoo, you got Google, GoDaddy absolutely killed it, they were crushing it. Even though they nearly didn't make it out of the dot-com crash, they killed it, billions and billions of dollars. There's a lot of companies that later on, yeah, sure, they failed. But we're talking about plenty of new millionaires and billionaires that came out of that were just fine. And the people that made a lot of money, you can do a lot of things when you have $1 million. You can keep reinvesting. So sure, there's going to be a lot of people who lose money, But thankfully, there's going to be also a lot of new geniuses that are able to come up with, they're just lazy, they're bored, they have $1 million in the bank. Oh, they go to the ice cream shop and then, hey, suddenly they get a great idea that before you know it, 5 years from now, it's the next best thing in the entire world, that it's the next week. The further I get into this, the less I seem to care about everything happening around me. I mean, you go to conferences, you're chatting with investors, you're advising projects, you're looking and observing the environment, and there's good news, there's bad news, but the less it should affect you, because the people who get really emotional are the ones who lose the most amount of money. Now, sometimes the emotions are really great, and that's awesome to celebrate, but the bad emotions are what gets you. It's like, so you got to be very careful. And we have a piece of writing here today from Mr. William Suberg. Bitcoin prices fell as low as $6,000 in 2018 due to a Mt. Gox trustee panicking. So you're pretty much establishing that just due to this guy, Mr. Kobayashi, Bitcoin prices fell to $6,000. It's solely because of him. Yes. He sold $400 million worth of Bitcoin. If he did that multiple times, maybe, there would be something that could be close to what he's trying to claim here. But $400 million in something of a $400 billion market cap for all the cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin itself, it's been ranging anywhere from 100 billion to 250 billion and all around there for the, past 6 months. But Mr. Nobuaki Kobayashi has sold over 35,000 Bitcoin and over 35,000 Bitcoin and over 34,000 Bitcoin Cash. So he's been trying to pay off the defunct creditors from Mt. Gox, which you guys are all familiar with. That is the second big event that happened in the Bitcoin world, in my opinion, after the Silk Road and, of course, the birth of Bitcoin by Satoshi Nakamoto. But $400 million, that's a lot of money, but it was spread out. Since December all the way up to March, he's been selling off these bits and pieces of Bitcoin here, Bitcoin Cash there. So it's not just one sale. If it was one sale, then yes, that would have some market waves. And yeah, there's panic and people are like, oh, I don't know why this guy sold. But just because a whale is selling those giant amounts of Bitcoin, we have to look at it logically. One, I'm sure, maybe there is a little bit something going in his mind. You know what? It's better to sell right now instead of waiting another 6 to 12 months just so we can get this done and over with. There is another thing you have to look at. Mt. Gox has some shady things in its past that you just don't fully understand. You don't know what happened with Mark Capelli's, and there's some really sketchy stuff if you look at it. I don't think he ever got what he really deserved, but that's my opinion, and I'll keep that to myself for going further. Kobayashi himself related the selling practices at a creditors' meeting the same day, Matt Odell adds. Matt Odell, his tweets have been taken and added to this post. They, the trustees, panicked and sold the bottom. Market absorbed it well. Now, we do have to observe the fact that Matt Odell is quite obviously biased, and this entire article's emotions are based off of Matt Odell, not Mr. Kobayashi. Mr. Kobayashi's actions, sure, they're there, but there's a lot of different perspectives you can take. And we're just looking at Matt Odell's perspective here of the situation. So he's stating some facts. The Mt. Gox trustee has sold 35,841 Bitcoin for $362 million and 34,008 Bitcoin Cash for $45 million, according to reports coming out of a creditors meeting held earlier today. Sales started in December and ended in February. Now, full list of transfers out of their wallets. More than half of the Bitcoin they sold was transferred to an exchange on February 5th, the day before Bitcoin hit its 3-month low of $6,000. And then, boom, 2,000 Bitcoin, 6,000 Bitcoin, 8,000 Bitcoin, 6,000 Bitcoin, 6,000 Bitcoin, 6,000 Bitcoin, 6,000 Bitcoin, da-da-da-da-da-da, the list goes on. They panicked and sold the bottoms. That's what he wrote. Maybe they did. Sure, I'm not going to rule it out. But most likely, these guys who are managing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin understand what they're doing. And even if they did panic, it's only probably a small part of the equation because they're thinking, how do we pay back these creditors? It's not like, oh no, Bitcoin's failing, it's dead, here we go. There is a whole other aspect to it that maybe it's a strategic decision. They're selling. They're not going to pay the creditors in full. They're going to pay them a little bit. Then they're going to buy the Bitcoins cheap or other altcoins cheap or whatever they're going into, right? Because at that point, you're talking about stuff that literally can buy out entire corrupt countries, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars. You can do quite a lot with that sum of money. And these guys, it's not everything they have. It's a portion of what they have. We're talking about billions of dollars here. Mt. Gox was huge, right? That's why it had some huge shockwaves when it fell down, and $1 billion worth of Bitcoin was stolen, and it was super strange coincidences happen around there, and not everybody believes Mark Capelli's. Anyways, Mark Capelli's is one of the world's richest men in terms of Bitcoin now, so that's something that he's not but he's definitely up there. Mt. Gox was the largest Bitcoin exchange in the world until hackers, stole around 850,000 Bitcoin in February 2014. So there's some panic over there. My camera ran out of battery, and it is a new day. Martin Shkreli got sentenced to 7 years in prison for running 2 securities fraud operations. Oh, he wasn't, but he went to jail over a Hillary Clinton hair little thing, like a thread on Facebook. Martin Shkreli is one of the most interesting guys, and this was completely random, but I wanted to throw in that because welcome to cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin fell even more, and there's a lot of people out there that are continuing to freak out. So I wanted to wrap up the $400 million. Listen, Mr. Kobayashi is a guy who's managing billions of dollars, right? So his whole thing is to literally pay back investors, supposedly. And another thing is he's got profit regardless of the price. So the average, supposedly, the average price that he was selling at for all the Bitcoins so far is around $10,000 something. Now he did sell some Bitcoin at $6,000. He did sell some Bitcoin probably at, I don't know, $5,000, whatever it was. But the average that multiple sources have been saying, that wasn't this original source, which was completely biased, hey, over $10,000 is a great price considering that the Bitcoin guys, they're still profiting hundreds of millions of dollars on top of paying everyone back. And in my opinion, I think Shkreli stole the hundreds of millions of dollars with the Bitcoin. No. Mr. Mark Capelli's, I think he took the couple $100 million, maybe in operation with another third-party agency or some hackers or whatever. Maybe there was real hackers. But that's just my opinion. I'm throwing it in there. Anyways, I wanted to wrap this up with the SEC. So the SEC ruling recently, there was 2. One was pretty good. I mean, it had a decent future for cryptocurrencies. They said that ICOs are okay and that most likely there's going to be further regulation coming down. And here we are. The second one is not the best. It's saying that every cryptocurrency must register with the SEC except for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, it's looking like it's the furthest away from a security as it can be. So this one most likely is going to be okay, and I'm sure there's going to be others that come into court as well, and they're able to rule that they're completely 100% a utility token. They're trying to be as far away from securities as possible. I think that's going to be a little bit easier for the ones that are doing airdrops that are larger as well than the the ICOs that are raising hundreds of millions of dollars, and there's a bunch of profit, and there's a couple from China that I'm looking at, but those probably don't care about the SEC ruling regardless because they're on the other side of the world. So the way I view it, it's still the wild, wild west because this is only one country. Sure, America's big and powerful, but in terms of cryptocurrency, not so much. And there's some people asking me why I live in Poland. Hey, there's one thing. I love my country. I'm a proud American, but I'm also a proud Polish person. I wanted to say Polak, but that probably would have sounded bad. So I'm living here, and I actually feel more free than in America. In terms of business, in terms of, just fun, pleasure, living as a 20-year-old kid. I'm enjoying myself. Everything's doing great. And that's a weird thing to say coming from one of the only countries in the world that will tax you no matter where you go to, okay? They're looking at your internet. They're doing some weird, sketchy stuff. I mean, NSA, Snowden, and the SEC rulings. I'm looking at it. I'm not looking too much into it because it doesn't affect me. I don't care. Like, I don't go to America often, right? And in the future, I'm probably not going to be living in America. In the future, I'm probably going to raise my kids not in Poland, but maybe in Europe, maybe in Asia, maybe in South America. I don't know. I'll choose somewhere where there's a lot of freedom, internet's fast, everything's good, bills are cheap, whatever. Life's great. Thanks to cryptocurrency, you guys are now able to look at different futures out there, and it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, if you're one of those guys who is freaking out about this, just remember that most of the market isn't even from America. It's from like South Korea and Japan and China, and sure, China's banned, but there's a lot of weird, interesting things going on in Asia. So, in conclusion, does the $400 million affect the currently $152 billion Bitcoin market? Nah, not so much, because this was happening over a couple months, and the dude's still sitting on over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. So obviously it was a choice that wasn't made split second. It wasn't actually panic. I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't understand the situation. And I mean, out of all the people out there in the world, do you think YouTubers, do you think some blogger, do you think some random guy is going to find out the real truth behind Mt. Gox? Oh, and the $400 million of the Bitcoins? No, no. When you're dealing with that type of money, there's some shady stuff, and it's better to keep that under closed doors. Anyways, my name is Michael Kubera. Thanks so much for watching this one. And if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you didn't, dislike. I don't really care because it's going to optimize. I'm going to make monies anyway. Bye.